How often do you think about the Roman Empire? Once a month? Once a week? Twice a week? In the case that you are a male person, there is a high probability that the meme that was everywhere on the internet a while ago is about you.
And if it's about you as well as about me, let us return to a simpler time when we could get a spear in the back just for being Christian, when we could travel all the way from England to Egypt without any visa needed, to find out, is it true that the Napoleon's army brought an end to Roman Empire? Why did medieval theologians claim that the Bible predicted the rise of Roman Empire? And if you're a woman, maybe after watching this video you will finally figure it out. Why the man always thinking about Rome?
The idea of Roman civilization, as it occurred in collective perception of people for thousands of years, represents a center of hard power as well as the center of soft power. Because in addition to mighty and well-organized army that for many centuries had been conquering and keeping the major piece of Europe under Roman political control, Roman civilization also wielded significant soft power through trade, Roman law, language and governance. And then, as the Edict of Thessalonica of 380 declared Christianity the state religion, Roman Empire also became a spiritual center of the world. In a broad sense, Rome symbolized an eternal continuity of the same legal, cultural, and then also spiritual traditions within single hegemony state for many centuries. For instance, Virgil, a Roman poet, describes Rome as an empire without end. Just think about it. A guy from Cilicia, which is the territory of modern Turkey, and the other guy from Hispania Tarraconensis, both of whom lived in the year 100 AD. What do they have in common? They both lived under the Roman rule, as their parents, and grandparents, and grandparents, and their children, and grandchildren, and grandchildren. Well, you got my point. So for a long time it really seemed that Rome is eternal, but guess what? It wasn't. At least this single world-dominating state transformed into a whole bunch of smaller states, each of whom for many centuries claimed the right to be called the proper successor of Rome. For better or worse, all empires eventually die, and Roman is not an exception. In 476, as a result of long centuries of internal decline, political instability, external invasions by Visigoths and Vandals, the Western Roman Empire eventually fell, which resulted in the beginning of period in Western Europe that in historiography gets named Dark Ages. Ooh, Dark Ages. Characterized in decline in centralized authority, cultural stagnation, and lack of written records.
But as old Empedocles used to say, nothing emerges and disappears without any trace, especially in the case of such a valuable, centuries-old statehood. Because Roman hegemony lasted for at least some hundreds of years, of course the idea of a single centralized superpower is stored somewhere in the collective memory of different societies, which permanently use its institutional and ideological legacy. More so, in the early Middle Ages, the concept called translatio imperii emerges in theological literature around all the Europe. This is a religious concept that takes its roots from the Old Testament.
Many medieval authors describe translatio imperii as a succession leaving the supreme power in the hands of the monarch ruling the same region where the author came from.
What a coincidence! They're like those aliens which in every Hollywood movie come somewhere from the other planet, specifically to the United States.
Medieval philosophers saw history as a linear progression guided by a divine plan where events happen according to the God's will. Therefore, the state power is also given to the rulers by God. Roman Empire, especially after adopting Christian faith, was perceived as one of the kingdoms the which is written about in the Old Testament. Alongside great empires of the past, it was considered the keeper of divine will. So many expected the successor of Rome, the next keeper of divine mandate to rule. Yes, there was Byzantium, which is the name that nobody used back in the day. The Roman Empire, that's how they called themselves. It was a legal successor of classical Roman Empire, but the authority of popes in Rome and the authority of Roman emperors in Constantinople were sources of contention for a very long time. Like in 726, when the Emperor Leo III, do not confuse with Pope Leo III,
issued an edict which ordered the removal and destruction of religious images, including icons and fresks from the churches, which led to a quarrel with Pope Gregory II, who apparently didn't like this idea. Their languages of worship also were different. The Western Roman Empire prayed in Latin, while the Byzantium prayed in Greek.
In 754, the king of Franks, Pepin the Short, conquered the major part of Italy and donated it to Saint Peter, which was already dead for 700 years, but he is considered to be the first pope of Rome, so the current pope was his successor. This gave the pope sort of more independency from the emperor in far and distant Constantinople. 46 years after that, the son of Pepin the Short, Charles the Great, traveled to Rome to help Pope Leo III, who was facing political difficulties. In gratitude for his support on Christmas Day of 800, Pope Leo crowned Charles the Holy Roman Emperor in St. Peter's Basilica.
Apparently Charles was a good boy and behaved well during all these years, so he found a crown of Roman Emperor under the Christmas tree.
Okay, now you can look.
That's crazy.
The ceremony officially recognized Frankish state the successor to the Roman Empire, thereby beginning a controversy with Eastern Roman Empire over the terms of the word Roman in the naming. By the way, the Holy Roman Empire, which is the successor of Kingdom of Franks, existed until 1806, when after Napoleonic Wars it eventually collapsed. One may ask, who the hell is the Pope to coronate kings and the Roman emperors? Anyway, who gave him such authority? Well, this is another intriguing story. In 315, Constantine the Great, the one who became first emperor to convert to Christianity, transferred authority over the city of Rome and the western part of Roman Empire to the Pope. It is known as Donation of Constantine, and it is absolutely fake.
Yeah, this letter was fabricated around the middle of 8th century, but nevertheless, popes of Rome often used it in disputes with Byzantium over the right on Roman heritage. Because this fake document's content contradicted the Byzantines' notion that Constantine's Translatio Imperii transferred the seat of imperial authority from city of Rome to Constantinople.
The matter of continuity of Roman Empire was a powerful source of legitimization and prestige based on many centuries of social memory or religious justification. Okay, now we know about the Roman continuity on the west, but how about the east? On the east, there was Eastern Roman Empire, which existed up to 1457 when the Ottomans conquered Constantinople. And it's natural that the Ottoman Empire, as well as their counterparts from the west, also wanted a piece of Roman heritage pie. And it means that according to Sultan Mehmed II, there is enough titles of Roman emperors for everyone, so he also declared himself Kaiser Yerum. And it seems that the chunk of Ottoman population of that time also called themselves Romans. The Portuguese physician Garcia de Otra, who worked in Portuguese India in 16th century, once wrote, "Many times he asked to some soldier participating in the wars of those Indian kings if he was a Turk, and he replied that he was not, he was a Roman." As we all know, the fallen Byzantium was an Orthodox Christian empire. There was ecumenical patriarchy, which apparently ceased to exist after the falling of Constantinople. So, after that, another major Orthodox state, guess what? Claimed the right to be the successor of Roman Empire. It was the Grand Duchy of Moscow. And if you read Russian sources on this topic, you'll often come across the expression Moscow the Third Rome. And if you think that at this point it's gone too far, well, I got something else for ya. Another attempt to kind of revive and appropriate the legacy of Roman Empire was made by Benito Mussolini in 1930s and 1940s. Central to the regime's ideology and imagery was the ancient Roman Empire, to which it looked for inspiration and legitimacy. Mussolini wanted to create the new Pax Romana across all the Mediterranean Sea, which once was Roman territories. But the plan didn't work that well. You know what, I easily can imagine that such a man with Mussolini's ego and narcissism would undoubtedly proclaim himself the Roman Emperor if he were to successfully conquer a significant portion of Mediterranean Sea. I personally think that rather of being transmissed to one superstate, Roman heritage kind of dissolved in the common European civilization. We can find its heritage in the state attributes, symbols, names, The Roman law is a foundation for a legal systems of the states of Roman Germanic law, which is most of the world's nation, by the way. You simply cannot pretend to not notice all of this around you. So maybe that's why men are always thinking about Roman Empire.